Look, the mishandling of this second wave of this pandemic that's led to this second wave by the Andrews government is very clear, and yet the Premier's approval ratings are still solid. What does that say about the opposition you lead, that people would choose to re-elect this incompetent Andrews government?
Well, Shari, if you actually look at the most recent polling data, which was released during the week, it shows you that Andrews has got the least support of any Premier in the country.
But it's still high. It's still higher than your approval ratings.
Well, I don't know about that, Shari. There haven't been any approval ratings that have factored in the Leader of the Opposition. But let me tell you this. What you see is that in the middle of a pandemic, like in the middle of a war, or in the middle of a natural disaster like bushfires, all leaders' approval ratings go up because the public, regardless of whether you voted for them, the public wants the leadership to get the country, to get the state through it. But what the latest data shows is that Victorians have less confidence in their leader than any state in the country. And why wouldn't they, given the mistakes that Andrews and his ministers have made that have led us back into lockdown unlike any other state in the country?
Look, polls aside, your team very clearly has not been effective. It is not in a competitive position. Do you plan on doing anything differently to give the people of Victoria a legitimate choice come the next election?
Well, Shari, I completely disagree with your characterisation of my team. I absolutely disagree. I can tell you what I've done. I have stood up and I've told Victorians if they want to see Victoria out of Daniel Andrews' Belt and Road Agreement, they're going to vote for Michael O'Brien and the Liberal Nationals, because I will take Victoria out of Belt and Road because it is a bad deal. It's a bad deal for our jobs. It's a bad deal for our security. It's a bad deal for our sovereignty. I have said I am not supporting Andrews in terms of his new taxes, massive new borrowings. If Victorians want a tax and spend government, don't vote for me. But if they want a government that's going to create jobs and get the economy back, that's what me and my team are going to be offering.
Michael, you bring up the Belt and Road Agreement, and it's such a good point. You know, the Belt and Road initiative that the Andrews government has adopted against national security advice, and on top of that, the incompetency of how they've handled this pandemic, and yet his government, his team is still more popular than yours. Do you have any plan to change anything before the next election?
Well, Shari, again, I'm sorry, you're just not right in your argument there. There hasn't been a two-party preferred opinion poll that's been conducted during the pandemic. What the most recent data has shown is that Labor is the least trusted party of all the states in Victoria to lead through this pandemic.
His latest poll numbers, though, are still over 50%. People would still prefer him as Premier to you, despite all of this.
Well, I'm sorry, Shari, that's just not right, because what the latest poll showed, well, the question was, do they support Andrews' handling of the pandemic? And it was 50%, which was the lowest of any state Premier in the country, or Prime Minister for that matter. But I've got two jobs, Shari. I've got the job of holding Labor accountable, asking questions, tough questions that need to be asked, demanding answers, demanding accountability.
But my question to you is, do you plan on changing anything before the next election to lift your approval ratings, to hold this government to account, to give the people a real choice at the election?
Well, Shari, I've just told you, I'm going to stand up for Victoria against Belt and Road and against Daniel Andrews' dud deal with the Chinese Communist government. I'm going to be putting forward, and I've already put forward with my team, plans to get Victoria back to work and back in business. We released a policy back in May, which would do just that, about cutting taxes, cutting red tape, giving Victorians incentive again, rather than this overtaxing, over-regulating, over-borrowing Labor government that we have in Victoria. There's over 2 years till the next election. Every day we're going to hold Labor accountable. Every day we're going to put forward a better alternative. And I'm very confident that in 2 years' time, Victorians will understand that me and my team offer Victorians a much brighter future than Daniel Andrews and his discredited group of ministers.
Okay.